Virtual assistants, not just for top producers. If you're not using a virtual assistant, why? Hey guys, Mike Ferrante here, and we're doing Tuesday training again. Every single Tuesday, we hop on here. Sometimes we have special guest stars like we do today. I'll tell you about that in a second. But we cover training for business owners, for agents. And today we're going to talk all about virtual assistants. Now, this guy even puts me to shame for how he uses virtual assistants. And we're going to dig into what Greg does. And like I said in the opener, if you're sitting there saying, well, I only do a couple deals a year, or, I'm not a top producer, I say rubbish. You should be using a virtual assistant, and we're going to help you get started. Now, by the way, if you want to get a hold of me, it's Mike at 21mike.com, or go to 21mike.com, click that button at the top to schedule an appointment with me or someone on the team. Now, without further ado, my man that I've known for years from Buffalo 716 Realty Group, he does a lot of stuff. And our special guest, Greg Strauss. Thank you for being here, my man.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do a little training about a remote workforce and growing your
Ooh,
business from a labor pool perspective.
I love the way you put that. And what I want to do today, Greg, we'll keep it high level. I definitely want to talk about what you've done and what you do, and really boil it down so that agents who are not top producers can stop telling themselves that story that, oh, well, I don't do enough, that I need a virtual assistant. It's not that you need one, it's the liberation that it gives you. And one of my favorite books, I'm sure you've read this one, it's The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And he talks about the deal: delegate, eliminate, automate. And those first three letters of the deal are what a VA is all about. So, real quick, tell us what you do. I love your backdrop there with, I know you're in the real estate business, but you do some other stuff too. So, tell us who you are, what you do, and how we can get a hold of you if we need help in Buffalo and surrounding areas.
Yeah, so I think, being in real estate for 13 plus years now, we've kind of grown into what I say is like a vertically integrated real estate business. We originally started helping people just buy and sell homes. They've now transitioned into buying that second home, vacation rentals. COVID popped and that was a big thing. Then we got multifamily homeowners, property owners that are investors, right? So we help them on the management side. And most recently, we kind of have seen that transition into as our commercial real estate practice is growing bigger, even on the business broker side. People saying, hey, I'm kind of looking at my options. I need to sell this building. Oh, why? Well, I need to sell the business. Okay. Obviously, I come from a background of accounting prior to real estate. So we're actually kind of offering that service now. And what I've seen with those different iterations that, I mean, ultimately integrate uh, very well for like the life cycle of what people want to do in real estate or hinge around real estate. We've basically brought in, what I'd say, remote team members. Ultimately, yes, virtual assistants, but I think sometimes that connotation could be a challenging one. And the point is that we are looking for how do we find the right help for each business unit? How do we find that help that is it could be down the street, it could be around the world. What does that look like? And, what I've found now is we have, I think, seven team members remotely
Wow.
between Nicaragua and the Philippines, that these team members are not only hungry, willing, and able to work, but they're like excited about. They're helping us with process improvements, to kind of button that up and talk a little bit more about it. You might have a question or two to help me frame. Is that like I think, as a salesperson, as a business owner, even, which you're ultimately the salesperson, right? You're pushing business forward, most likely, unless you have the most amazing team ever. 90% of what you work on is going to be admin. The 10% is what you should be doing: relationships, networking, deal making. And I think that's where, bringing in the right resources, however you word that, is helping you grow to that next level. I've been pushing many of our own agents. We've recruited, hired, trained agents. When I look at it, and you look at it as the percentage of a deal or a percentage of your budget, which, again, agents would have to have a budget, business owners have to have a budget. It's kind of a no-brainer. We're talking 750, maybe 1,500 bucks a month from a part-time versus full-time perspective to bring in somebody that's able to help. just start organizing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's break this down. Number one, you've got all your stuff that you do up there and the vacation rentals, that's a cool addition to your vertical integration. Tell us how we get a hold of you if we do have a need in your area. And it's Buffalo in what, about an hour to 2 hour radius? Is that what you cover?
Yeah, so we service Buffalo, I say Buffalo, Niagara Falls to people that aren't super like, where's Buffalo? So Buffalo, Niagara Falls, Western New York, which is about a 2 hour radius. We go into the Finger Lakes region just a little bit. We go into ski country in Elegantville, which is all available within probably a 2 hour radius of Buffalo. And to reach me, my information is greg at 716realtygroup.com. That's my email address. You can follow me at the 716 Realtor online, or my cell phone, 716-864-1055. Just shoot me a text. And happy to help people that are looking to kind of brainstorm some more ideas and think like if the time is now, let's look at that. I think people and myself and like you probably like, you know, quick to hire, slow to fire is not what you want to do. But at the same time, um, there's a serious cost of not hiring quick enough.
Yeah, for sure. So now let's switch gears over to back to the virtual assistant, or as you call it,
Mhm.
remote workforce. I think that negative connotation of virtual assistant, we think, oh, those are the people that spam call me. Those are the people that don't really have value. They're really cheap labor and they're valueless. Well, you and I, Greg, we've learned that's not true. And what I want to do is, so what I start with is even if you're a low to moderate producer, there's a bunch of stuff that you are doing that you shouldn't be doing, that you could outsource to someone for an hour a week, an hour a month. And there are platforms where you literally can hire someone like that. Now, Greg, what you've done is you've actually added people to your team where they are part of your team. It's like having an employee, they just don't come into the office. By the way, Mike, we'll drop Greg's contact info, and I've got him saved in my phone. He's on speed dial, so I'll get that over to you. But I start with the list of things I do. That's what I call it, and just had our staff go through the list of things that they do, and we're going to identify more things that they shouldn't be doing. And so, Greg, to turn this into a question for you, I kind of wanted you to reflect back and say, how did you start? Like what are some of the first things that you started having your remote workforce do for you? And maybe agents who are listening to this can say, you know what, that's a great point. I could do that. So start at the beginning. What sorts of things did you outsource?
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge, great start. So ultimately, the first time you're going to get somebody, and I always tell anybody else, it's like where should I get started on my team? Start with like an executive assistant. You are the CEO. You need an assistant. You need somebody that's going to be able to help do at the most basic level email management. Now, there's an element of trust with that, of course, but man, I'll tell you what, that was my first hire. Uh, my team member Journey is amazing. We actually just celebrated her 1 year with us, so we've ramped up quickly as I'm like, wow, this is helpful. Wow, this is helpful. So I mean, simple email management. I mean, we're talking. We have 351 tags as of this morning on things in my inbox from potential sellers and buyers to management clients to follow up with. You're really working your email like a CRM as you get busier and busier. So just getting started with like, hey, watching your inbox, and I think that also kind of leans a little bit into the transaction coordinator side. A lot of times, you can have a third party transaction coordinator, you can have one in your company, but without fail, the attorney or the banker is going to not copy your TC. They're going to send something directly to you. So, like, and I've been playing with this recipe for a decade, and it's like, if it's not you, it's hard to get them to the other person. So I think, that executive assistant transaction coordinator is like a huge start. They can see what they need to see. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm to the point now, a year in, I know that if I take a day off and my team's working, of course, that my stuff's being covered and I'm getting like very high level. I might not even log into my email for a day or two, and I'm getting the very high level. I'm out networking, I'm meeting with people, say, hey, you got to call this person back, got to hit this person. They have an end of day report. I get a nice detailed report. We utilize Google Chat, you could use Slack, what have you. But just getting started with like that basic, busy work. I mean, and organized. I mean, think about how much spam you get. And even then, like one of the tasks we do is going through the spam folder. There's
Hmm.
almost always something in there, right? But we've
Yeah.
like curtailed the emails enough that they go in there, but you still got to review it manually. And that's something that we do as a simple one line item task. Check it every other day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So let me spin off of that. So as I was rereading some of the stuff that Tim Ferriss wrote, he said start with really basic, simple tasks in order to build up to that level of trust where you actually give someone your email password and let them start doing stuff. So I'd even ask you to take a step back further from that. I'm going to give an example of something that I looked at that I was doing that I thought, why the heck am I doing this? And I actually met a contractor years ago. He was an electrical contractor, and he said a phrase to me that I'll never forget. He said, he talked about saving minutes. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we're doing a job and it's an X number of hour job. And so he said, I look at things and I try to save minutes here and there because minutes equal hours, hours equal days. And over the course of a year, where can you save a minute, 5 minutes, 15 minutes? And so one of the things I was doing, just to give a really basic example, every time I visit a property, almost without fail, I take pictures. So if it's an existing listing or if it's a property that I'm trying to get the listing, I'm taking pictures of every single property. Well, I want to save those photos. So I can't remember the last time I personally saved a photo, and we use Google Drive. All I do is I take those pictures, I email them to my assistant, and our longest standing assistant is in India. Her name's Ronnie, and she's been with us about 5 years. She is a part of the team. I email her the photos. The next morning I wake up and they're magically saved in a folder. All I do is take them and email them, and I'm done. Each time I do that, I probably save 5 minutes. But if I do that, one time a day every week or two times a day, I'm saving a half hour a week, and a half hour a week turns into, how many hours a month and a year. So Greg, go even back further because I think there's a lot of agents who are out there saying, yeah, this sounds cool and all, but I'm not ready to hand my email password off to somebody. So are there some even more basic tasks that you delegated at the beginning of your career using virtual assistants?
Yeah, yeah, no, and heard. I think there's definitely that trust thing, so you got to build up to it. Um, One of the probably the simplest things that you're talking about saving minutes, and it depends on someone's style as well and how like technological they are. But just let's just start with meeting notes. Let's just start with meeting notes, aka every meeting I'm involved in, taking meeting notes. And yes, there's all sorts of Zoom and otters and stuff, and that's helpful. But just taking meeting notes, understanding the follow-ups needed and making sure they're getting done by all parties. I think that's like a huge step one. So just any meeting I'm on, like whether it's an internal staff meeting, or I'd even go as far as to say the external meeting. Now, very often when I'm going to an appointment out in the field, contractor, you know, rental potential, listing appointment, I would say, hey, do you mind if I record this just so that it's easier for me to take notes? I
Yeah.
utilize Otter AI. There's many others out there. But the nice thing, like even fast forward to now, kind of like your photo example, is that my Otter account, which is separate, separate from the email, if they'll know what appointments I have that day, they'll know, okay, Greg had these four appointments yesterday. If we go into his Otter, which is just a separate account, there's everything that they would need. So I don't want to have to email them to go get it. Two, they can go get it, and they can then share it with everybody involved because they already saw in the meeting invitation who was invited, the email address, phone number, what have you. And we keep that as a follow-up going forward, and they can send that on your behalf, just simply saying that they're on your team. They don't need to be in your inbox to necessarily do that. And I think just those simple touch points. I think as agents and as business owners, you're great at going into a meeting, having the conversation you need to have there, and getting out of it. But the challenge, I think, at least that I face and many others, I'm assuming, is like, okay, how do you very quickly get to the next meeting and make sure the follow-ups from the previous one are done? I mean, that's just all management and tasks. So I definitely recommend that's like a first step, like a note taker beyond the AI. I think you need that human element to organize, stop, and think. You can utilize AI to some extent.
Yeah. So at the end here, Greg, we're going to rattle off some sources of VAs because I know we're probably getting people thinking about, oh, I could do that, or I want to try that. So we'll list our sources and share all those. But the other thing that I was refreshing my memory on is Tim Ferriss talks about don't just hand off nebulous tasks. So one example was don't hire a VA and set them up for failure by saying, "Hey, manage my social media." That's not a task. That's this nebulous blob, and they will fail. Instead, you give them a checklist. So one of the things I do, for example, is I create a piece of content, and then Ronnie will take that piece of content and she has a list of probably about 10 things that she does with it. She turns it into a blog and she puts it on this platform and that platform. The only one she can't get into is TikTok, so I have someone else who does that. But I was wondering if you could talk for a minute about like your systems, your checklists, and maybe give one example of something that happens like if a seller lead comes in and someone grabs it out of your inbox, or pick an example where you have systems in place, very structured tasks that are simple that a VA does for you. Just grab one and tell us about it.
So first and foremost, and I feel like I see this a lot out there, is that it's like the holy grail to have every single thing you do be in an SOP, standard operating procedure, and then
Mhm.
be able to delegate that. I think what I've found is a lot of people struggle even getting started because of, frankly, almost no process. So I want to encourage people like get started. You can utilize AI, you can utilize Claude, ChatGPT to help you make like a rough checklist on what to do with your deals if you have none. Then you edit it. The point of what I'm going to say and get to the next to get to the crux is like if you don't start from somewhere, you're never going to get anywhere. So I think the best thing from a checklist perspective for me is going to be on my transaction side. We know without fail, when somebody goes from a listing contract, we've signed a listing contract, what do we do next? Okay, marketing needs to send postcards. We need to get the photography ordered, we get the sign ordered, and like who does what? Everything, go get schedule the open house. You got to make sure it's blocked on Greg's calendar. If we're going to delegate it, how do you delegate that? And what's the order of delegation for just booking an open house? Um, so we have what I would say that listing agreement to marketing phase. Then you have the contract to close, and I would even say the contract to close the next piece is probably the most important that most people don't do is closing to infinity. How do you keep them? Make sure they're in your CRM, make sure they're on your SOI mailing list, make sure they're invited to your annual family gathering or party. We do it on 716 Day, which is July 16th. It's like ice cream, mini golf, all that stuff. We got to make sure that that closed deal the checklist has them getting all the way to be invited. Our email list, our snail mail list, everything, our fridge magnets for the football schedules that are about to come out, and make sure that those people are part of our culture forever. And I think that that's, all of those steps being laid out has taken like 10 years to get it there, but it is absolutely managed in a checklist process inside of, for us, our transaction management system at least from listing to close. Once it goes beyond close, it goes into our CRM, and we have various tasks in there to make sure everything's buttoned up.
So you talked about a couple things, and I'm going to pull up my girl in India, her list of things that she does. So she sends me a report every day. It's a short email, and she says, "Here are the 10 things I did today and the approximate time that it took." There's two things that you mentioned. So you said the calendar, and so you don't have to give away the keys to the whole office to give someone access to your calendar. In fact, one of your assistants, I've given her access to my calendar, and so, Jamie is managing things on my calendar because I gave her access. The other thing is the CRM. So as agents, one of the failures we have is that we get somebody new and then we're like, oh man, but I've got to sit there and enter them in the CRM now if it didn't get dropped in there automatically somehow. And that's a task. It's data entry. So basic data entry in a CRM, we should not be doing this. It just, we do it because we don't have anyone else to do it. We don't have an option. So I'm going to just rattle off real quick one of Ronnie's work days. Um, I gave her a referral task where she worked on it on Facebook for 40 minutes. I do CE classes, and so she sorted the CE class and figured out who qualified and who didn't. She posted on social media for me based on that SOP that we created. She uploads and names and saves documents. So think about it in an office setting, Greg. You know, we've all worked in an office probably at one time or another. Mike, my teammate who's on here, he worked at the post office. So talk about dealing with paper. When I was at the office, I had a girl that I would give things to and she would stuff them in a file cabinet. She had an inbox and I said, here's a document. She would put it in the right folder, in the right drawer of the right file cabinet. We do the same thing with electronic documents, right? So I have 123 Main Street. Here's a document for 123 Main Street. I don't touch that document. I forward it to her and she files it. She enters stuff in our CRM. She's posting on Google Business Page for me. She's taking a landing page and publishing that. She's sending emails for me based on a system that I have. So all these things are done automatically because I've trained her how to do it, started out as small bite-sized pieces, and then we build into bigger systems. So Greg, you have 7 people doing stuff for you. You have 7 essentially employees, and none of them come into the office, right? Or do any of them come into the office?
So from a remote team member's perspective, no, nope. They're all remote. They're all working. We do have, and I think it's helpful to try to make sure you have some culture. So typically, they, as a group, as a collective, based on each business unit, will have traditionally like a morning call. We have numerous morning meetings. I have one with my executive assistant every single day. And kind of that helps me delegate, like, okay, make sure this team's doing this, this is going there. We talk through some of the pieces that we're continuing to build. But as we've grown to 7, yeah, we're talking, we could have 100 applicants for leasing in a week. We have to figure out how to do 30 different showings. And they're figuring that out, remotely from other places, and then working with our team on the ground to coordinate, just an example, just to coordinate showings for an apartment rental. If it's a maintenance request, who's the person that's doing the maintenance, make sure the tenant's aware. There's each of these roles have kind of blossomed into their own role. And I think, to be honest, as I look at this now, obviously at a much larger size, not to intimidate people, but you say it's come from, well, what should I not be doing? Like, I shouldn't have to do this. Like, at the end of the day, the business owner, the salesperson, specifically in real estate, you should be out making the relationships. Like you said, you bring
Right.
that piece of paper back, or do you just take a picture and click forward? However you get it there functionally, they should be able to really help be that back end. As you're saying that, one thing I think that's important is you just got to remember that you don't get what you expect, you get what you inspect. So you got to like check on them sometimes. Everybody's a person, they make mistakes, or maybe just I like to audit. I come from an accounting world, so like, oh, is this actually happening as planned? What's the report? What's the data? I love the end of day reports, or you mentioned, you're kind of just saying, hey, keep me in the loop. What's going on? And very often they're coming up with new ideas. They're getting to the point where like they're a true, thinking for themselves, grown adult that's going to say, okay, hey, I think I can make this easier. What if I do this,
Mhm.
this, and this? And you're like, okay, update the SOP. And I do stress to keep those SOPs updated. I think they're very excited to have a roadmap, and we just keep changing it as we go.
That's right. Yeah, and that personality type, someone who's going to be an admin, they like structure, so you have to give them the structure. Greg, and you said you kind of nailed it. I want to rephrase it. Keep in mind, agents and business owners listening to this, if you don't have someone to do the task, then you're doing the task. So as I look at Mike, who's on the video editing is one thing that I would probably only do in a pinch. Like that, it's fun. Like I enjoy editing a video, but the bottom line is that takes 30 to 60 minutes to really edit a video. Imagine if you saved 30 to 60 minutes a week and substituted that with lead generation calls, calling your sphere, door knocking, holding another open house. Those are the activities that we should be doing. They're income generating activities. Editing a video is not an income producing activity. So Greg,
If I could add to that, just it's also it's something that can be systematic, and then delegated to the right people, one person I should say even. But when I say one of the things that's something that stuck with me that a broker at another firm told me, and I thought was really interesting. If a task is not delegated two levels down in an organizational chart from you, it does have the ability to come back to you. So a lot of times, what I have, and part of the reason for the breadth is that there's coverage for a lot of these things. For example, in our property management division, there's a specific person in charge of certain owner portfolios, and then they have a backup that's meant to understand the same issues for whether it's a vacation day, a rest day. We have backup built in. Like I'm really trying to get to that point where you know, and more or less bulletproofing it in case, if one person quits and you have to make that decision to even let them go, like, is it delegated two levels below you? Is I think something really important to keep in mind.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's back on your plate.
It comes back to your plate if they don't do a good job, if they don't take constructive criticism well, or what have you. But yeah, then you're
So I,
editing videos.
Yep. So I'm going to issue a challenge to everybody listening, watching, and then we're going to tell you how to meet this challenge. So my challenge for you is pick one or two tasks. Make your list of things you do and pick one or two tasks that you want to delegate. And hire a virtual assistant. Hire that person who may be domestic, they may be overseas, and even if it's 1 or 2 hours a week, someone who takes something off your plate, and the cost of that, Greg, I don't know, I'm seeing anywhere from like $5 to $20 an hour, depending on domestic or virtual, overseas. But pick those one or two tasks, go to one of these platforms and experiment with it. I mean, if you're looking at just say an average of $10 an hour and you delegate 2 hours a week to somebody, what's the real risk? And that you'll see that it will grow. So tell us, I know I'll say two of the places that everybody knows about that I use, but I know you have some even better ones. So Upwork is a great spot to go get virtual assistants, and of course Fiverr, and that's more task-based usually, but that's okay. What are some now? And there are some real estate specific ones. Any companies you'd recommend to our audience?
Yeah, so I think, freelancer.com kind of covers a lot of things as well. So that's one sort of similar to Upwork that does a lot of different tasks. And I think if you give somebody just even a small task, and you mentioned Fiverr or Freelancer, you can build a relationship with them and then
That's
kind of
right.
have an ongoing, outside the system to some extent, relationship if you'd like to continue to hire them. Um, I've used Voov before. I've used
Voov, was that V?
VOOV. They
Okay.
were great out of Nicaragua. We use right now. I use a lot of Easily Virtual. Their owners out of Florida, but they are Philippines based. They have a really good structure. I think the question is somebody's looking for it too, and those are two great companies. Is like, do they also have management in place? You can go online and find a remote team member, virtual assistant, but I like when they also have oversight holding them accountable. Somebody handles their payroll. I mean, I think that's the big difference as you look to, if you're going to test it, I think as much as I would love to say, go ahead and hire your friend's kid, if you do it US based, you're going to have to now think about payroll processing, FICA, Social Security, all of that. Where if you hire one of these agencies, and again, part-time, just saying the current one, easily virtual, 750 or maybe $800. There's new pricing is a part-time person for a month. I mean, if you can't get started there, then what are we doing? And I think, like you said, a small starting task, start with your highest income producing. Do you have a database? Have you been utilizing that database? Is there a plan for that database? And then, like, there you go. You should turn that database of 100 people into one deal.
That's right. I love it. Hey, time flies. We went a little over, but it's good stuff. And we'll do a longer version. So if you guys want to hear more about Greg, we have a couple other topics we're going to hit later this year. We're going to do a best advice ever, which is a one-on-one interview podcast where we dig deep with Greg. But certainly, I can't recommend him enough. I've known Greg for years. We met through Tom Ferry coaching platform, and he's become a friend. And we run a networking group together. Just great guy, and I can't recommend him enough. So one last time, Greg, drop that contact info here and we'll wrap it up.
Sure. Well, thanks. And you're a great guy too. Right down to 90. We're covering the Rust Belt and
That's
the
right.
Great Lakes area of New York of the U.S., I should say. So yeah, Greg Strauss is my name. 716-864-1055 is my cell. Or you can reach me on email, greg at 716realtygroup.com.
And of
That's
course, if you didn't figure it out, 716 is the area code there. That's like one
716 is the
thing.
area code. So yeah,
Yep.
we've won a couple of awards. We've got a couple different business units, but at the end of the day, it's where I'm from. It's where we're proud of. It covers Western New York State basically, and all the way from the Lake Ontario to the Pennsylvania line. And we're here just to help people with their real estate needs.
Love it. Well, we're cut from the same cloth, my friend. Thanks for being here. We'll do the longer version coming up soon. And if you need to get a hold of Greg or need anything else real estate related, you can hit me up as well. It's Mike at 21mike.com. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thanks, Mike.